محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يئوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. صدق الله العظيم. Dear respected brothers and sisters, firstly, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's get a bit of a proper salam. Some of you just sitting there not saying it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good. You're here for a session about the devil within. Okay, so going into the subject, I want to tell you first that out there, probably in here as well, most likely we've got them in here as well, you've got jinns that are alive and jinns that live. They live amongst us. They stay within our places. Okay, they'll be in our houses. They'll be in the places where we live, and that's a fact. So the thing is, in my house, in your house, we've got jinns too. But there are two types of jinns. There are good jinns, there are bad jinns, just like human beings as well. You've got good human beings, you've got bad human beings. Okay? Just as I wouldn't make friends or stay with bad human beings, the same applies with jinns amongst jinns. They have their own world. Now in your house, in my house, we've got them, and they're around, and they stay. A lot of them are good, believing jinns. And those believing jinns are there because they like to stay in believers' houses. Because you're reading the Qur'an in there, or you're doing other good actions in there, they actually like that. They actually like to be with you in the house. Tell me this, have you ever been in your house and you're downstairs all alone, and you've heard some footsteps upstairs? If that's happened to you, then put your hands up. Woohoo! We've got some jinns in Manchester. Those jinns are trying to tell you something. They don't usually step, okay, they don't usually put their steps on the ground. When there's people inside the house, they do. When you're alone, why? They're going, I'm here. And you're supposed to go, Salaam alaikum. The thing is, there's no point of you being scared of the jinns, because the jinns are there to respect you. No good jinn will ever or should ever do anything that will be harmful to you. And you need to understand that those jinns are there. Sometimes they'll even help you in your deen. They'll help you in your religion. Tell me this, has this happened or not? And I want to see some hands go up. Have you ever been woken up suddenly, something's tagged your foot or something like that, in the morning for Fajr? Have you ever been woken up for Fajr? Hands up. Yo, I'm telling you, we've got more jinns in Manchester than Birmingham and Leeds. We've done this talk, we've got more hands here, that's good. They did warn me, they said that you've got high winds today. I said the jinns have already started. Okay, you've got high winds or a storm coming up, they said it's already started. Anyway, you've got them, they help you. I tell you, I was in Delhi in India, and this was 2015. I was in i'tikaf, and in i'tikaf, this masjid in Delhi, Shah Waliullah's masjid, is in the middle of a graveyard. I kid you not, it's in the middle of a graveyard. You might think, am I crazy to go in the middle of a graveyard and do i'tikaf? It's a very spiritual place. If you can ever go there, it's a very, very nice spiritual place. So I went there, did i'tikaf, and I'm telling you, sometimes I'm doing, there's just me and one other person in i'tikaf. Small masjid, two of us doing i'tikaf. And sometimes I'm doing dhikr, and I can hear something else along with me doing dhikr. I was like, fine, you want to join me in dhikr, that's fine. You carry on, no problem. In fact, sometimes at night time, the suhoor there would end about 3:40 or something. And sometimes he's asleep, my other partner, Takaf, he's asleep. And sometimes I'm asleep, I've dropped off. So something bang on 3 o'clock would wake me up. Bang on 3 o'clock would wake me up. Right? And I'm telling you, the clock's exactly at 3 o'clock. And it's a good believing jinn because he just wants to make sure that I'm not missing suhoor. Right? It's a good thing. You have jinns like that, alhamdulillah, mashallah. Be thankful. If you can, make salam to them. In fact, when you come to your house, you're supposed to make salam anyway. Even if the house is empty, you make salam to your house. Because there's angels in there, in your house. There might not be any human beings, but there's jinns in there. And your salam goes to the jinns. So don't be afraid. Be in your house and say the salam. In fact, what you should understand, number one principle is that you, as a human being, have no reason to fear a jinn. Because jinns fear human beings. Did you guys hear what I said? What did I say? Like one person said it like, all the rest of you sleep. Sunday afternoon. Let me ask you again. Did you hear what I said? Can you say what I said? What do you have to say? You don't want to believe it, do you? Jinns fear human beings. It's a fact. The human being is the most frightening of all the creatures on the earth. Human being is the one, even if a lion sees a human being with a gun, or the human being is in a vehicle, the lion won't attack the vehicle because of the human being. The same thing you've got with jinns. Jinns are nowhere as advanced as the human beings. They're scared of what they're able to do. In fact, there's a barrier between us and them. Once they cross the barrier, we can actually cause them harm. And they know this. And there's ways we can trap them. There's ways we can cause them harm, and they know this. So there's a clear barrier between us and them. We're not supposed to cross over into their world normally. They're not supposed to cross over in our world. We've got two different worlds. Okay? But there's nothing to be fearful of. Let me give you an example. Should a human being be scared of a cat, or a cat should be scared of a human being? Which one? You guys don't know Manchester. You're all scared of cats. What's wrong with you guys, man? Should a human being be scared of a cat, or a cat of a human being? That's it. I'm not talking about a big wild cat. I'm talking about a domestic cat. But there are certain human beings that are scared of cats. Yes or no? Yes. The Prophet said yes. He's got his wife that he's scared of cats. It does happen. I know this guy, he has his wife. He goes down the road. She's actually a solicitor. She goes and fights cases for other people, but then she holds her husband very tight on the road when a cat comes along. Yeah? She's not scared of the husband, but scared of the cat. You know what I'm trying to say? That, you know? So what happens is, if you are scared of the cat, and the cat senses it, the cat will one day chase you. I know someone who's actually scared of cats. And she was in a house of cats, okay? And one of the cats just found it playful to go after her. Just after her. Why? Because the cat can see that she's all like, ooh, there's a little cat there. The thing is, why are we scared of jinns? Why? It's because of you, your mind, and whatever you've gone through when you were young. Most people, their fear of jinns comes because of them being young. And again, I'm just going to repeat this. Any youngsters here, you don't want them to sit here, please take them out, go home, have a nice Sunday afternoon. Don't complain later on that we caused you some grief and your son he's refusing to go to the toilet without somebody standing outside the door. Okay, which actually happened when I covered some stories. There was a boy, he's 14 years old, used to wake his parents up for Fajr. Right? Used to wake his parents up for Fajr. Once he heard my jinn stories, then he wouldn't get up to wake his parents up. Forget that, he wouldn't even get out of bed to go to the toilet. Right? So you can get people get scared. Now what happens to us when we're young is that we have all these stories being told to us. This jinn, that jinn, oh did you hear that happened, this happened, okay? And you've got mothers that will tell their young children, grandparents telling their young children. My mother, rahimahullah, may Allah give her Jannah al-Firdaus, say Ameen. I remember when she was feeding my nephew, okay? He's my nephew, that's her grandchild. She used to say, eat, eat. And when he wouldn't eat, then she would say, do you hear that dog barking outside? And he would say, well, that dog is going to get you if you don't eat this. Oh my God. Can he eat you up? Poor nephew of mine, for the rest of his life, he's scared of dogs. I mean, he's scared anyway because he's Asian. You go to a park and you see like, the dog comes, all the Asians are gone, right? You got dog goes this way, Asians go that way. Dog goes that way, Asians go this way, right? But anyway, he's going to be fearful anyway. But now he's even more fearful because he's got the stories in his head about this dog. When you're young and you hear these stories, it really gets you. And when you're hearing all these jinn stories and so on, it gets you. What do I do in my house? My house, I do two things. One is no fear of dogs for the children and no fear of jinns. What do you do? Well, number one is when we go to the park, I've taught them, you go to the park, you just stand. A dog comes towards you, just stand. Don't run. Don't have the fear. That's one thing, alhamdulillah, they're not scared of. Number two is, in the house, sometimes, purposefully, I will send my children upstairs. Upstairs, no one's there, go and fetch something and bring it downstairs. You know, kids, sometimes they get a bit scared, right, to go upstairs. Why? If it's dark, they need to put the lights on, they put the lights on, they go and get something and come back down. Once or twice I noticed one of them is a bit scared and so on. I said, no, you go upstairs, just go upstairs. You don't say, there's nothing there. Baba's here to protect you. If I hear you scream, then I'm gonna like basically fly like Superman through the ceiling and go and grab you. No, there's no need of saying any of that. He's scared, that scare is there for no reason. Another thing we did in our house, and I know a lot of you parents don't do this, we have the whole house lights off when we go to sleep. And every kid in his own bedroom, they go to sleep on their own. We've done this from a very young age. Kids, when you get them used to sleeping on their own, in the dark, in their own bed from a very young age, is completely fine. You got parents that keep their kid in their bed for months. Yes or no? Yes? And the kids in between them. The husband wants to go towards the wife wants to go towards the husband, they have to do some hurdle in the middle. I'm thinking, why are you doing hurdles in the middle? Why you got that little obstacle in the middle for? Seriously, get them their own bed, get them separate, dark, on their own, in their bed, in the cot, from the cot age, on their own, in their room, they'll be fine. Because that's life. Why give them these stories? Why scare them? Why tell them, oh, I'm not going to let you sleep alone. I don't know what's going to happen to you. Why give them stories for? Just let them do it. It's natural. They'll be fine with it. So one of the biggest fears that people have of why they're scared of jinns is because of what they've got in their own mind. There's no need to be scared of jinns. In fact, jinns will move out of your way when you come across them. They will not want to come across your pathway, especially if you've got strong willpower. The one who's not scared of a jinn, jinns are scared of them. The one who's scared of jinns might want to play around with you. I'm just being straight up. Just don't be scared of them. You hear something, you hear a noise, whatever it is, just stand your grounds. Don't be scared of it. Don't be scared of the sound. And sometimes you hear some sounds, or you see something, and your mind's playing with you. I remember in Bangladesh, I was there. This is going about maybe 20 years. No, this is going about 20 years ago, Bangladesh. So there was a storm. We call it a tufan. There's a storm. So now the storm is outside and the wind's blowing and the rain's falling down. And what happens is my cousin brother's room, okay, him and his wife are in there, and suddenly they see the TV, okay? This is a small TV, but it's like I think it's like a 14-inch, TV, right? But it's a TV, it's a heavy TV, right? And the TV in the room moves. It moves. So after a little while, the TV moves again. And the wife goes, Ya Allah, iske zin na to television le jaate. The wife says that today the jinn's taking the TV away. And TV's moving. And all night, they're like kind of, we're not going to sleep because there's a jinn in here, he's going to take our TV away. The next day, they found out that the storm had brought one of the trees slightly down, and the wire of the TV going outside the house was wrapped around the tree, and as the tree was coming down, the wire was being pulled and the TV was being pulled along with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, jinn's taking it. Sometimes you hear something, it's got nothing to do with the jinn or whatever. It could be floorboards just cracking because of the heat. There are many scientific reasons for the sounds that we hear and the things that happen. I'm not saying every single sound out there is not a jinn. I'm not saying that, but there are many explanations for the natural sounds that we might hear. And you've got to be aware of that. Now, the first thing I told you is you should not be scared of a jinn. You should have your strong willpower. The next thing is you do some very simple things. Jinn should not be in your life messing around with you. Okay? So straight up, when you go into your house, you should say Bismillah. When you come out of your house, Bismillah. When you close your window, Bismillah. You open your window, Bismillah. This has been taught to us by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No jinn will enter the house when you exit and enter by saying Bismillah. No jinn will do that. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ used to even put the lid of the saucepan. He used to put the lid on the pan at night time before going to sleep by saying Bismillah. And the reason why was because jinns would not be able to put their hands in your wonderful curry that you've cooked, okay, and have a little bit of a taster, okay. You say your Bismillah, you'll be fine. So you should understand your protection is in this. In fact, one of the biggest protections that we've got is Ayatul Kursi. Ayatul Kursi is a wonderful protection that we've got. It's not only protection for jinns, but it's also protection for human beings from coming and stealing from your possessions and your house. You should know this. In a hadith is Bukhari. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu is on guard one night of the treasury that the Prophet ﷺ has got, from the Muslim treasury. Abu Hurairah notices a man that comes in and he wants to steal. So Abu Hurairah grabs hold of him and he says, I'm going to take you to the Prophet ﷺ. The man says, let me go, please let me go. I won't do this again. Abu Hurairah lets him go. The next day the man comes in again and he starts to steal. Abu Hurairah catches him again and says, I'm going to take you to the Prophet ﷺ. And he says, please let me go, I won't come again. So he gives him a second chance. The next night, 3 nights running in a row, Abu Hurairah catches the same man. He says, that's it. I'm not going to accept any excuses from you. I'm going to take you straight to the Prophet ﷺ. And then the man says, if you let me go tonight, I will teach you something by which, if you say it, then no one will be able to steal from you. He says, what's that? And he told him Ayatul Kursi. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum, la ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm, all the way to wa huwa al-aliyyul azim. So Abu Hurairah let him go. He went to the Prophet ﷺ and he narrated the story. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Innahu lakadhub, that man is a great liar, but on this occasion he has spoken the truth. And that man was Shaitan. It was the devil himself that took the form of a human being. And the devil had taught us, and it's the truth on this one occasion, that when you say Ayatul Kursi, you've got protection for your own wealth. One thing you should do, teach your children Ayatul Kursi. Yourself, you should recite Ayatul Kursi. Blow on yourself. You should not see any nightmares. Nightmares usually come because you have got 3 types of dreams. One is true dreams, all by the Prophet ﷺ told to us in Tirmidhi. One is true dreams. One is the dreams that your own head is playing back to you from the memories you've got of the daytime. So there's just different things that just go through your mind. And the third one is from the shaitan, where he scares you or he does something to you in your dream. To stop the third one from happening, recite Ayatul Kursi and you'll be fine. In fact, I'll take to one thing. Have you ever been asleep, and while you're asleep, you want to move your body, but you can't move your body? Is that ever happened to you? Put your hands up. Yo, they're all in Manchester today. It's good. You know what that is? A lot of people say it's jinns. A jinn has got hold of you. A jinn has seized you. You're trying to move. You just can't move, and you can't even breathe. And the last minute, you breathe and you come out of it. You know what that is? That's some phlegm that's stuck inside your head down there somewhere, that's blocking your breathing pipe. Your windpipe is blocking it. Trust me, it's, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't want to do right now if you don't know what phlegm is, but it's there. It's just dropped down there and it's blocking the windpipe. Just get up, clear your throat properly, or especially when you go to sleep, make sure you clear your throat before you go to sleep. Or what you do is you go onto your side and sleep. Tell me this, yes or no, all those people who put their hands up, does this usually happen when you're lying flat on your back? Yes or no, put your hands up. If it happens to you other times, put your hands up. Good, you got a lot of fat inside you, you know what I'm saying? Honestly, just clear your throat up, and if you think that is something that's disturbing you in the night, Ayatul Kursi, you'll be fine. If you want to up the game, and you think there's something that's disturbing you at night time, then what you do is you recite beginning of Surah Baqarah, 5 verses, from Alif Lam Mim to Muflihun. Then Ayatul Kursi, then the last 2 verses Surah Baqarah, from Amana Rasulu bima unzila ilayhi min rabbihi wal mu'minun, all the way to the end of Surah Baqarah, just 2 verses. It's in a hadith, okay? Separately, straight away what you read is, Qul a'udhu bil falaq 3 times, Qul a'udhu bin nas 3 times. Blow in your hands, pass it all over your body. Go to sleep, you'll be fine. Nothing should come to you that night. You'll be fine. If you think that it's still there, I'll tell you the reason why it's there. The reason why it's there is because your level of Quran reading is not as much as you need to get rid of that thing. So for example, if you got sick, if you get sick, depending on how ill you are, you need to take that much medication. Yes or no? Guys, you're awake or you're asleep? Yes or no? So if you got simple, like a simple runny nose or something, or maybe slight headache, you might just take, I don't know, maybe some Lemsip or something. Okay, it's done, gone. But if you've got something more than that, let's say for example, you've got a chesty cough, then you might need to take some cough medicine. So you need to add some more medicine on. If you really got a high fever, you might add high fever, and maybe you've got, you're really feeling like all sort of awkward, then maybe the doctor might need to prescribe for you antibiotics. But you might need to take it. Depending on the level of illness, you're going to have the level of medication. Sometimes illnesses go beyond that. So sometimes you get so ill that you have to be referred to a specialist, and they have to find out what's wrong with you. And depending on that, they're going to give you some special medication, which you might have to take. Let's say, for example, may Allah protect all of us, say Ameen. Let's say someone's got cancer. Now for that, you might have to go through leukemia, get something, or you got something there where they have to go through some kind of treatment, where they have to sort of burn your skins, the cells in your skin or something. That's a high level that you have to go to. Why? Because you've got something very strong inside you. Now depending on what you've got in the jinn world or the sihr world, the black magic world, depending on what you've got to up the level of the medication. Normally, what we do on a normal day is you don't walk out there on a cold day with a t-shirt. True or not? Only 5 brothers said true. I see you guys come out the gym, you're like, with a t-shirt on. Anyway, those brothers never said yes. Anyway. You don't walk out on a cold day with a t-shirt on. Why? Because your immune system cannot take that. You don't walk in the rain all day, okay, with your head getting wet, your whole body getting wet, your shoes are getting wet, your socks are wet, and you're gonna get pneumonia. There's a normal level of protection you should have. Every believer should have a normal level of protection. What's your normal level of protection? Well, you should be practicing Islam. Okay, and you should be reading the Quran, some parts of the Quran. You should at least do something in the morning, something in the evening. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to recite Qul huwallahu ahad 3 times, Qul a'udhu bil falaq 3 times, Qul a'udhu bin nas 3 times, blow in his hands, he used to blow in his hands before going to sleep, okay? That one when he used to blow in his hand, it was falaq and nas, okay, 3 times each. But after Maghrib, after Fajr, he used to recite Ikhlas, falaq and nas 3 times each. And he wouldn't blow in his hands and so on, but that one he just used to recite. There are morning du'as he used to say, evening du'as he used to say, and these are basic protections that we need. Some recitation of the Quran should be there in every believer's life. Quran is not just for Ramadan, okay? Quran is not just for the special occasions. Quran is every day for a believer. That's your normal level of protection. It's like you have food every day, right? You have food every day, yes or no? Talk to me, yes. Somebody said a wonderful thing yesterday. They said when people get something wrong with them, let's say for example you think there's some jinn that's bothering you, they try and get others to read for them. And the sister said a wonderful thing. She said, Shaykh, when they're hungry, why don't they get others to eat for them? I'm like, yo sister, I'm going to use that in my next lecture. It's true. You don't do any level of protection, any Quran. There's no Quran in your life. There's no Salah. There's no nothing in your life, right? And then these stuff, they affect you, and then you complain, how did you come? Well, if you're going to walk out there in the cold with a t-shirt on, you're not eating properly, you're not protecting yourself properly, then you're going to get ill. And the same thing about believers. We should always have a minimum amount of protection that we have. So, the thing I'm going to say to you is that to up the thing, if you think that there's still something there, something bothering you in your house, what do? Well, I would ask you to do this. The Prophet ﷺ told us, you read Surah Baqarah in the house, as Surah Baqarah is recited, jinns can't stay there. So if you've got a problem of jinns in your house, Surah Baqarah is what you do. Read it yourself. The strongest thing is for you to read it yourself. If you can't read it, like basically you try to read it in a part of the time, one thing I'm going to tell you to do is leave Surah Baqarah playing in your room where you're getting those funny feelings or whatever, or those nightmares, whatever might be happening to you. In your room, play Surah Baqarah continuously. Low volume, let it play throughout the day on a laptop, on a pad or something like that. Let it play continuously. When you go to sleep, switch it off. That effect, and sometimes when you can't read it, you read it, that effect is going to be massive. Massive. The more Quran you have, the strongest thing you have to understand against any of this stuff, the strongest thing you've got is the Quran. And it's your recitation of the Quran. Now, this is, so far I'm just talking about jinn sort of coming across you and so on. And why would a jinn ever want to come across your boundaries? Well, there might be certain reasons. If you want to have a detailed talk of this, you want to listen to it, then go to YouTube and type in, the world of the unseen or jinn lecture with my name next to it in YouTube. And there's like 2 lectures out there. One is a lecture I did about 10 years ago, and it's got a lot of information on the basics of why jinns cross this barrier between us and them. So listen to that one, that's the name of it. A second one I did, which was an audio recording. There's a lot of stories and things in there about the jinns and so on. It was recorded in Chicago, in Dar es Salaam, and it's an audio one. If you just check that up, Dar es Salaam in Chicago, they recorded it, it's an audio one. Again, about almost another 2 hours, you'll get a lot of information there. Now what I want to say to you is that your level of Quran recitation is the biggest thing that you've got. I'm going to tell you a true story. A brother, his name was Umar. He's in Dewsbury. About 20 years ago, he converted to Islam. 20-something years ago, he converted to Islam. He was from a Hindu family. His Hindu family did a black magic on him. Now, black magic is something that's been mentioned in the Quran. It is true. It's been mentioned in the Quran in several places. The magicians in the time of Musa alayhi salam, they performed a spell and they put the spell on the eyes of the people. So though the thing wasn't happening as they were seeing it, they saw it as the magicians intended. So the Quran says, "Saharu a'yun an-nas wastarhabuhum." So the Quran says that they cast a spell on their eyes. So you're there looking at ropes. They're just ropes. But what you see is you see snakes. You see snakes moving around. And you've got all these magicians these days. You know, some of these magicians out there, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, some of them doing tricks. I understand that. Some of them doing tricks, and some of them actually worship the devils. The top level of magicians that do things that nobody knows how they do it. Their tricks are never revealed. I'm telling you, those top magicians, they worship the devil. If you want to do real magic, you get those jinns on your side, then basically I'm here and I'm going to start to levitate. Do you see that? Do you see that? Do you see that? Oh my God, do you see that? Do you see that? Do you see that? Right, so, not magician by the way, yeah. But there some of them have tricks, and some of them have real, like sort of things that people can't reveal. People can't understand how they do these things. If it gets to that level, there's always jinns involved. How do you think, you know, you had those people in the Prophet ﷺ's time that they used to be fortune tellers. He told us, it's in a hadith of Muslim. He said they have jinns with them, and the jinns will go up to the heavens. And what then happens is that the jinns would hear something to the first heaven and go nearby and hear something, come back down, and the jinn will then tell one truth and mix it with 99 lies. But the Prophet ﷺ is telling us that they've got a jinn and they send it. So there are people who have jinns with them and they send it. Now, later on when I get the chance, I'll tell you the difference between somebody who's trying to help others through good jinns and somebody who, you know, is sort of, you know, doing exactly what I'm saying right now. They've got jinns and they're doing something bad. The Quran has spoken about people breaking up marriages through sihr. مَا يُفَرِّقُونَ بِهِ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَزَوْجِهِ. It's in Surah Baqarah. They cast a spell to try and break a marriage up. Now, I want to tell you one thing before we move forward. There are two extremes we've got. We've got people who totally deny this stuff, and we've got people who anything happens, oh, it's jinn. Anything happens, oh, jadoo. Kisi ne jadoo kar liya, bas kya kare hum? Kisi ne jadoo kar liya. Somebody has done jadoo. Oh, किसने जादू किया जी? Who's done जादू? Oh, पता है ना वो जो नाज़ी है ना पाकिस्तान में, वो करती रहती है. You know the Nazi in Pakistan, she does it all the time. You know, it must be her. Poor Nazia in Pakistan. Poor Nazia, and honestly, it's just, you know, you find the usual suspect, just put it on them because you heard some story and the story's been said a few times, so it's got to be true. That's the new generation, okay? You hear the same story again and again, you hear it so many times, it's got to be true. I heard it from 10 people. So what, you heard it from 10 people? It doesn't make it true. And there's always Chinese whispers, yes or no? You know what Chinese whispers are? Let me give you an example of Chinese whispers. This is a true story. My elder brother, he got married. This is a good few years back. And then I heard somebody in the family said, did you hear? He got married and he took his wife to a nightclub. Nightclub, my brother praised, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. My sister-in-law, she praised, la hawla. Nightclub? I said, who did you, now, I'm the person, I'm going to go to the source. Can you imagine, this is the room in the house. Did you hear he got married, he went to a nightclub? So I said, okay, tell me, who did you hear it of? She said, I heard it from so-and-so. So I rang so-and-so. I said, what did you say? She said, well, I said that he got married and he took his wife at night to a museum. Wow, that's a big difference, right? Nightclub, night museum, wow. Okay, so I said, who did you hear it of? She said, I heard it of so-and-so. I said, okay, let me phone so-and-so. So I rang so-and-so. I said, what did you say? I said that he took her to a wax museum. Wax museum, a nighttime museum and nightclub. I said, who did you hear it from? She said, I heard it from so-and-so. I said, okay, so I'm ringing so-and-so. So I said, what did you say? I said, I told her that he got married and took his wife to Madame Tussauds. Now, if you know Madame Tussauds in London, it's a place where they have all these celebrities that are there in wax, all right? So it's a wax museum. Now, when she said Madame Tussauds, he could have The other one never understood. So she said, oh, you know, wax. I said, wax. Like Madame Tussauds is like a wax museum. So, oh, wax museum. So somehow she said nighttime, night museum, and the other one turned into a nightclub. Now, poor thing, Nazia in Pakistan, I don't know how she's become the usual suspect, but anything happens, the blame's going to go on her. Now, you got something wrong in the house. I'm telling you straight up. You got something wrong in your house between a husband and wife. It's not always jinn, right? You got sometimes, you know, these kids, they're not eating properly. It's not a jinn. Do you know that the kids, you know, kids when they're basically, you know, they're nice and young, you're feeding them, they look nice and plump. You know what I'm talking about? Just squeeze their cheeks, you know what I'm talking about? I'm not a paedophile, by the way, yeah. I'm just saying that, you know, it's humanity, humans have love for naturally, my own children, okay? You know what I'm saying? Say about, you know, the cute little kids that they're so plump at the age of like 6 months that you could just drop them down, they'll bounce back up, you can catch them again. So I would never do that to a kid, okay? But I'm just saying that they're nice and, you know. And then what happens is they get to the age of 11 months and suddenly they stop eating. And then the parents say, oh, someone's given another, someone's done this, someone's done that, oh my God, who's done something? What's wrong with you? It's got nothing to do with that. There's a simple understanding. The baby is teething. There's teeth coming out, there's pain in the gums, the baby doesn't want to eat. That's the reason why. And then they go a bit thin over the next few months. That's the thing. You have husband and wife, something happens. Oh my God, someone's done jobs, someone's done gym, someone's done it. Who's done it? Let's go and find out. Let's go quickly go and run to a gym buster. Gym buster. Why? Because they've got marital problems. Why have they got marital problems? I'll tell you one reason why they've got marital problems. Maybe because they're both spoiled, or one of them spoiled, or one of them just moaning a lot, or one of them just being too lazy and not working. Okay, so I'm talking about male and female here, okay? So don't try and get me later and say, Shaykh, you're a bit like rude towards the women then. No, I'm not being a bit rude towards the women. I'm saying sometimes the guy can be lazy. He's not coming, you know, he's not going out to work. Sometimes he's making excuses. Sometimes she's a bit lazy. She doesn't want to do the things in the house. Can I ask you to switch that off, please? Thank you. Okay. So sometimes it happens with the ladies, sometimes with the men. And the thing is, if you're a person, I don't care you're a man or a woman, if you're going to turn your whole life into complaints, anything happens, you moan, right? Then you've got something coming your way. Let me give you an example. You've got a cow eating grass on this side. When the cow's eating grass and he's bending low and eating grass, he sees dung on his side. Because the cow's left dung. All the cows on his side are leaving dung, okay? Now this cow looks on the other side, sees another field. The grass always looks greener, doesn't it? Wow, looks greener. The cow thinks, wow, if I was to ever go to the other side and eat on that side of the other field where there's a fence in between, if I could do that, then I can't see any dung there. That looks beautiful. The smell on my side, but I'm telling you, when the wind blows, there's no smell of dung coming from that side. That's how you've become with your life. You're looking at all these other people living their lives. You think no one's got problems. Everyone's got their own problems. Everyone's got their own you know, their little mess that they've got. And then what happens is one day, there's moaning all the time. Now if that cow one day was to go to the other side, imagine the fence was left open, okay? Farmer Jones forgot to close it on a Saturday night. Sunday morning, the cow goes to the other side and starts eating the grass. At first, it's lovely, tall grass. But then the cow notices that there's dung on the other side. Yes or no? Yes. So you at home, you're complaining. I feel like saying to you, you cow. Men and women, you bull, you cow. Whatever. Why are you making your life like that? If you're going to spoil yourself, you're going to cause issues. Then there's other people in the house who say someone's done something. Sometimes it's the in-laws, sometimes it's other people who are messing up the family life. It could be many problems. It could be stress. It could be problems that they've got at work and they bring it at home. It could be whatever it is. The thing is, don't think that there's always a gym problem when something goes wrong in your life. The first thing that you need to do, so before I get to the first thing to do, that brother Umar that had a problem, okay? And then I'll tell you the thing that you need to do next. Brother Umar, 20 years ago, he converted to Islam. He's from a Hindu family. His family does sihr on him. They do proper black magic on him. And obviously they went to some magicians, whatever, Hindu magicians, and they got that done. I just want to say this one thing before I move on. Anyone who goes to Bangladesh, goes to Pakistan, goes to India, goes to, I don't know, Ghana, Nigeria, wherever it is, and you're doing these, going to these other people, you pay them the money, and they do some casting of a spell, you are equally guilty. Don't think that because you never did it, you just paid the money. No, you're equally guilty. Just like if somebody was to hire a hitman and say go and murder someone, they are equally a murderer. Though on the earth they got away with it, on the day of judgment they will be raised as a murderer because they hired the hitman. The hitman will also stand and they will stand. The same way, if you ever go and get anyone to do a jadoo, black magic, whatever it is, and you cast it on someone, you are equally guilty. You will have that sin on your head, and it's actually kufr. If you think it's halal for you to do, if you think it's okay, your iman has gone. That's straight up. It's in the books of beliefs, in the books of aqeedah and so on. If you think it's okay for you to do, if you think there's nothing wrong for you to do that, then you will lose your iman. But anyway, so this brother Umar, he has this sihr done on him. He goes to different people, different raqis. People who do ruqyah. He goes to try and sort it out. It doesn't get sorted out. It doesn't get sorted out. So he's going to several of them. And don't forget what I said to you. You need to up your level. The more you have of a problem with yourself, you need to up your level. So what he did in the end is, he did a very good thing, and I want to share this with you. He went and found the different verses that the raqis used to read on people who've got problems. And he then started to read it himself over and over again. When he got tired of reading, he recorded it on a CD, and he would play the CD in his house over and over again, and then he'd be back to reading again. This was a very strong spell that was casted on him. Alhamdulillah, he was fully cured. Say Alhamdulillah. Fully cured. Then he started to make copies of the CDs. People who had problems, he then turned to them and he told them that read these ayats yourself, and I'll give you a copy of these CDs. Whenever you can't read, you play this in your house. I spoke to him myself. I got a few CDs down to my masjid. I distributed about 100 CDs out there to different people, and I don't have the contacts anymore, I don't have the CDs anymore, but what I want to say to you is that if you do your own recitation of the Qur'an, there's nothing stronger than that. In fact, there are people who are very religious and they can get black magic done on them. Okay? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had black magic done on him, and he removed it just through Qul A'udhu Falaq, Qul A'udhu bin Nas. They found the rope in a very dirty well. They dug it out and they read the verses, and every single knot was undone. This was on our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam that sihr was done. Now, sihr can be done, but the first thing I want to say to you, whether it's jinn or sihr, is you have to go to the doctors first. I'm going to mention that to you first. If something's wrong with you, then please go to the doctors. Don't neglect that side. Go and get yourself checked out. Unless, look, there are certain symptoms I'm going to tell you that if you find these symptoms, you might want to say, okay, maybe we don't want to go to that side. So the first thing is you want to go to the doctors. Why? Because there might be a simple thing wrong with you medically. You need to give the doctors a chance to find that. I remember my kid, all of a sudden at the age of 4, my youngest kid, he had these spots coming up from nowhere. Spots here, spots here, spots on his arms. Suddenly he gets like 20 spots. Now, what was the reason? Now, what me and my missus did is that we started to test different foods. One of the biggest things that probably you might have is to do with the foods that you eat. So we start test this food, let's test that, and we start to record down what he had just eaten when the spots come up. And then we found out that he was actually allergic to citrus foods. And why he was allergic, he's never been allergic. Why he was allergic is because we went to Morocco in 2015, and he loves lemon. And this little kid, I don't know why, he took a whole lemon and he ate the whole thing. I'm only joking about that, yeah? So what happened is because of that, he got the allergic reaction. So then we had to make him stop having these citrus foods. And after a good few months, we slowly introduced it back to him, and now alhamdulillah he's fine having citrus foods. So sometimes you can get an allergic reaction. It could be anything. It could be tumor in your body. It could be something else. It could be some, some chemistry going on in your body which you're not aware of. Go and find out, right? Go and get your blood test done. Go and get your MRI scan done if you have to go to that level. And go and find out what's wrong with you. Sometimes people have headaches. I had a headache. I used to get these headaches at the back of my head. And then it used to happen again and again. I couldn't work out what it was. So once, alhamdulillah, I was in a Hajj, 2011 or something, there was a doctor from Manchester in a Hajj with me, right next to me. And I just, mentioned to him that I've got this headache, and he said, I've noticed one thing about you, you don't drink enough water. I said, you serious? He goes, yeah, I've been watching you, you don't drink enough water. So then I started to drink a lot more water, alhamdulillah, the headaches were gone. Simple, water's not gone. He said your muscle spasms are now, they're sort of, moving in your head because they're looking for water. And there's simple things you might find a solution to. Why? Because you've got something that you're doing in your life which you're not aware of. A lot of people nowadays are complaining about some kind of, the arm sort of hurting, the forearms hurting a bit, right? You know what that is? Mobile phone, thank you, my friend. You're using it like that, your blood flow is going upwards. It's supposed to be going downwards. You're using it like that for hours and hours. That's why you're getting pins and needles, and then you get pains in your fingers, in your arms. Simple thing. Anyway, you go to the doctors can't find what's wrong with you. That's when you might want to turn to the other side. But when you turn to the other side, my God, you better be someone who's a bit clued up. When you want to find a good restaurant, how do you find a good restaurant? Can't tell me? Sorry? What do you do? Google. Word of mouth, thank you. You look for references. Somebody said yesterday TripAdvisor. That's a brilliant. You go to TripAdvisor, you look at the different comments they've left there, the different stars they've given there, and then you start saying, okay, this must be a good one because it's got 97 rating or something out of 100, so it's going to be good. You go and get your reference. Tell me, why do people, when there's something wrong with them, and they're looking for a raqi, they're looking for some kind of jinn buster, and they don't actually go and get references? They just go, oh, do you know how to take jinns out? Okay, please take it out of me. What's wrong with you? Seriously? You just gotta put your body in front of someone, you can tell them to do whatever they want to you? You serious? I actually said yesterday, I said one of you youngsters need to do this. I haven't got the time, I haven't got the skill to do this. You know the way they make TripAdvisor? They've got ratings for food, for restaurants. There should be ratings and a TripAdvisor, not a TripAdvisor, but Jinn Buster Advisor, alright? And ratings for it. Seriously, we need a site for reviews on these Jinn Busters, because some of them are cuckoos. And they're going to make you, they're going to take your monies and they're going to leave you as another cuckoo, right? You hear these stories and you think, how dumb can you be? Honestly, how dumb can you be? There's one woman, she said to me, Shaykh, I went to one person to get my thing sorted out, and when I went there, he told me that inside me there were 996 jinns. 996 jinns. Wow. I mean, the guy must have spent a long time counting them inside you, my friend. Then it gets better. She said, Shaykh, he took out 993 of them and 3 of them remained. I thought, wow. Serious, I'm not making this up. This is a true story. 993, did you watch them going out of you? Did you kind of go, 3, 4, 993 goes out and 3 of them, and it gets even better. She goes, the next day I went back to him and he said all 993 came back in. I'm like, what? Are you serious? And then she's going back and forth, each session paying 50 quid, paying 30 quid, paying whatever it is, okay? And the guy's just basically having a field day. There's another one, a guy from, I think it was Ghana. Sheikh, I have a problem, and I went to a person and he said to me, He said to me, give me 500 pounds. So I gave him 500 pounds. And I said to him, what are you going to do with my 500 pounds? So he said, with your 500 pounds, I'm going to sacrifice a white cow, and a red cow, and a black cow, and after that you should be okay. So Sheikh, I have come to you because I gave him 500 pounds, and he told me that he sacrificed, but the problem is still not gone. I'm thinking, you cow. What's wrong with you, man? The person asked me to give him another 500 pounds because he needs to do more sacrifice. I'm thinking, listen man, you are the Eid Qurbani here. The guy's slaughtering you with your money, alright? And he's going to carry on doing that. Pure kitadito. Like, I'm saying, what in the world is going to sacrifice? The guy just pocketed 500 pounds. How do you know what sacrifices is done? And then sometimes you hear, if the jinn buster himself gives you nice stories and he says, I did this, and I killed this person, and I did that, and I did this. I'm telling you one thing, just forget it. Forget it. Why? Because these youngsters here with the black beards here, right? Youngsters, some of them, clean shaven or whatever, here sitting there. When they go outside, they have these fights outside. Okay? The day when they have a good fight, they're going to come back and say, yeah, man. Did you see what I did, bro? You see what I did? I gave him a hook here and this and that on the floor, beat him up, never gonna pick on me again. You know what I'm saying? That's what he's gonna say. The day he got busted, he doesn't talk about it. He comes home with a black eye. You say, hey, talk to this. What happened to you? He says, no, I'm before he gets it. I just fell down. You happen to fall down exactly on this spot, but your head is fine. Your side of your face is fine. You think we're so dumb, and that's what happens. They will never talk about the failures they have. And there's once I went to this one where he gave us 22 stories. There was this jinn buster. He gave us 22 stories. And me and the dad were sitting there. We listened to the stories, and we were like, wow, this guy's a don. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy's a don. You're thinking, wow, he's got some real stories. And then what happened to this guy. Because we were in a Ruqyah session. I got called over. This was in London a good few years back. They called me over for the Ruqyah session. And why they called me over, because I don't do Ruqyah, by the way. Anyone comes to me and says, Shaykh, this Ruqyah, I don't do that, okay? It's a very messy job. I normally refer people on I refer you on to others. I've never done that. If it's for myself, for my own kids, and so on, for my own wife, okay, if it's for that, then fine. But if it's for anybody else, I'll refer you on to others, because I don't get into this thing. So what happens then, the reason why they called me over is because I was the translator. The jinn spoke English and the jinn buster spoke Bengali. And I was in between translating, right? So it was a weird sort of day. But what happens is, early in the morning we started the session. And the first thing the jinn actually said, when he got the jinn to speak in the body, the first thing the jinn said was a swear word. He said the F word. And I was supposed to translate that. And this Bengali goes, hey, what do you say? After that guy, listen. He actually swore at you, right? Because guy is the I'm going to take his dad's name out of his mouth. I'm going to take his dad's name out of his house, out of his mouth here. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And he's like, okay. And he's reading these verses, he's burning the jinn and so on. It was one of those where the jinn was proper, in a lot of pain. But you want to hear what happens later on to this jinn buster that night, okay? Now, before I get to that, I'm going to call over Brother Zaid. I'm going to call up, because he did say it's a 2-session thing. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Welcome back to the second session of this about the devil within. Okay, now I was at that story about that guy who had, we had to go through this Ruqyah session, and the father invited me because I was supposed to be the translator. So what happens is we're doing this Ruqyah. So we did 2-hour session in the morning. It was intense 2 hours. And the jinn in the body actually said that, he said, I don't listen to people like you. And that's exactly how he was speaking, yeah? I don't listen to people like you. So it was an intense session for about 2 hours. After that we sit for lunch, and we're sitting with his Raqi, his jinn buster. And we're having, over the meal, he tells us 22 stories. And we're like, wow, this guy's a don, he knows it. Then we go for another 2-hour session in the afternoon. And as the session was going on, there was even one point where the Ruqyah had to go for his wudu. He left me alone with his patient and the jinn inside him. I'm thinking, man, I'm friends with you right now, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm all right with you, mate. So I was just sat there, just talk to him general stuff. And he had told me at that point, he goes, there's not one of us. There's more than one of us. I'm like, how many of you are there? He said, there's 3 of us. I thought, okay, so, and this is true, I'm not making any of this up, right? So then the Raqi comes back, he's done his wudu, he carries on with the session, he does his chumalika chu, whatever it is, okay? And then 5 o'clock we end the session, and then we're supposed to come back the next day for the next session, okay? So the next day, early in the morning, I'm ready to come down, the father rings me and he says, I've got a problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, we can't get hold of Mr. Jinn Buster. He's gone. What do you mean he's gone? He said, he's not answering his phone. I said, what do you mean he's not answering his phone? He said, well, the worst thing is that my son last night took a knife, he went upstairs to his bedroom and he ripped all the wallpaper in his room. He smashed the window with his bare hands, okay? They had to keep him locked in the room because, there's young children as well in the house. He's got a knife in his hand, right? And he's gone completely crazy at night. I'm saying, well, we need to get hold of this Mr. Jinn Buster that gave us 22 stories, you know what I'm talking about, like, yeah? So trying to get in contact, we couldn't. By the afternoon, I rang someone who knew of him, okay? So I said, where is he? He said, oh, here. He said, he won't be able to come back today. I said, why? He said, last night, 3 jinns attacked him. And he was left in his bed, black and blue with bruises all over, from head to toe. He had more than 100 bruises all over his body. And he couldn't get out of bed. He didn't get out of bed for another few days. Okay? So these people that tell you about the stories and so on, they'll tell you their best stories. No one's going to ever come to you and say, oh, I went to that one, I tried to sort it out, but I couldn't, like the jinn was a bit too strong for me. Are you going to stay there any longer if you hear that story? If you're going to hear, oh, I went to that other place, I tried to do it out. There's one, some of them, they're really cheap. And when I say cheap, I mean like they don't know how to do the job. I remember one Ruqyah session where the jinn corrected the jinn buster in his recitation. He told him, hey, listen, you don't read Surah Yasin like that, you read it like this. And he corrected his mistake. Can you imagine that? There was another session where there was this woman and this new freshie, the freshie jinn buster come from Bangladesh, came off the boat. You know what I'm saying, just landed. They tried different Raqis, different Ruqyahs and so on, and it wasn't working, so they got this freshie inside. The freshie said, so basically, I can do it, right? So come all fresh, right? So comes inside and he starts to read in front of this woman. The woman goes to him in Bengali. He said, whatever you guys said, she said, empty your sack. Because you'll see today whether I go or not, empty your entire sack. Now that's the thing about people who are not qualified. Or the level is too high for them. It does happen. If it's too high for them, they won't be able to sort it out. So this guy, he read for 2 hours. 2 hours. After that, he comes out and he says to the housekeeper, he said, he said, I took so many jinns out in my life, I've never seen a jinn like this in my life. Right? Now there are cases that will come up. Then you get cases where, I'll tell you one thing, it's not just about the recitation, it's about the person who's reciting, it's about their amal and their actions as well. The more they practice Islam, just a little recitation will have massive effects on this. There's a strong power that you gain when you will practice Islam. There's another stronger thing you will gain with the amount of Quran that you recite. The more Quran you recite, the stronger it is. So you'll find so many cases out there, and people will go from one to another. Look, if you find someone who tells you that, they're giving you a date or something, and they're saying, by this date I'll sort it out. Give us this much or give us that much. If they have gone beyond that date and they ask you for another date and so on, just forget it. Just forget those people. And one of the things about knowing about genuine people is, look, there's genuine people who are trying to, take out jinns and so on and sort your sexual problem out, and there are ingenuine ones. How do you know the difference between the genuine ones and the ingenuine ones? Well, I'll give you a way to find out. How do you know there's a good builder from a bad builder? Anyone tell me, how do you know from a good builder and a bad builder? Sorry? Well, experience and so on, and you might say, sorry? Word of mouth, that's fine, but I tell you one way you know a good builder. A good builder, when you go and reach out to them, they're busy. They will give you a date like 4 months later. They'll say, I've got this many customers, this many jobs lined up, I can't see you, I'll see you 4 months later. That's a good builder. He's in demand. He's so good, there's so many people after him. The bad one is the one that's dropping the cards in your letterbox. They come outside your door and say, hey, I can see there's a problem with the gutter up there. If you give me a chance, I'll fix a gutter for you. I'll only take you £50 for it, I'll fix a gutter. That's one of those that's coming because he's not in demand. He's looking for the job. If he's that good, then why is he not got so many jobs lined up? Same thing with the good ones, they're really busy. That's one thing. And there's a lot of recommendations, okay? Another sign is never to go to someone who's asking you for ridiculous amounts of money. Don't go to them. There's one, la hawla wa la, this one's true story, I'm telling you, there's a boy in Enfield. This is where I live in London. There's a boy in Enfield, suddenly he's admitted to hospital. 12 o'clock in the daytime on a Sunday afternoon, he's come into the hospital. There's blood pouring out of his ear. Okay? And he's in the hospital, and what happens is his dad comes, his dad looks at him and he says, Meshabs ila dakhala. We're going to need to call the Meshabs in a local Maulvi, right? So the local Imam, he comes, and it's one of those dodgy ones, dodgy cases. Yeah? So the local Imam, I'm not saying all Imams are dodgy, I'm just saying that this one happened to be dodgy. So the local one comes and he looks at him and says, he goes, there's a jinn in there. I'll take it out. Now this guy's freaking out. This guy knows there's no jinn with him. This guy knows that. How does he know there's no jinn with him? His uncle was there. He said, uncle, can I speak to you privately? His uncle said, yeah. Because that other guy was going to charge £1,200 to do this job. £1,200 for this job. And listen to what really happened. So he called his uncle. He said, get everybody else, get up. Right? He said to his uncle, please save me. His uncle said, what's wrong with you? He said, look, dad's going to kill me if I tell him the truth. He said, what happened to you? Because football khalaisi. He said, I played football. We went out with the mate because his dad told him never to play football, right, with the kid because he's going to break his arm, break his leg, whatever. So he went secretly, played football, and his mate, he kicked the ball really hard and a smack on his ear, burst his eardrum, and the blood is coming out. And this Maulana, some dodgy guy, says, there's a jinn. You know what I'm trying to say? So these are dodgy cases where people actually will make things up sometimes. Sometimes you don't have a problem. They might even plant a problem where you don't have a problem. There are a lot of dodgy people out there. There are some genuine ones. How do you know a genuine one? Well, a genuine one, actually one thing is, they won't ask you for ridiculous amounts. Okay, I do understand some of them have got bills to pay, so they might ask you for something very small, or they won't ask you for anything, but if you give something to them, they're just happy. They're not the type to actually say to you, you've got to give this much, that much, and it gets to ridiculous amounts, or they make you come back and forth again and again. So that's one thing. The other thing is that the genuine ones, they will use a lot of Quran recitation. Lot of Quran recitation. Now I do understand there are different methods in the field that they use, but please use your common sense when it comes to them telling you about their methods and what to do. For example, if one of them tells you, take this thing I'm giving you, and then he says to you this, he says, go to the graveyard, 12 o'clock in night time, and put it in one grave. You crazy? Are you crazy? You're going to go 12 o'clock in the night to a graveyard, you're going to put a piece of paper, you don't know what is written on this, and you're going to put it straight into a grave. Are you crazy? And you're going to think that these people are doing for you something really good. So these type of people that are out there, I don't know what methods they've got. You want to stay a little bit clean. Now again, you're going to ask me, well, who do we go to? I'm going to say to you, go to those that get high recommendations of others, because they would have sorted out so many cases and you would have heard from people how they are. Now, if it comes to the stage where you think, and I'll tell you a lot of you, if you think that there's something there, now how do you know there's something there? Let me tell you some signs that the person might have gone to the doctors, might not have gone to the doctors, but you think, you want some signs to know whether there is something there. So I'll give you some signs, okay? One of them is the situation that they've got flares up when there is Quran recitation or when the adhan is being given. So one of the ways to find out if there's something there in this person is to give the adhan. When you give the adhan, the Prophet ﷺ has told us that jinns, bad jinns, they flee, they run away from an adhan. So one thing is to give the adhan, get a male member of the family to give the adhan and see what the reaction is. Second one is to recite the Qur'an. Now, you as common people, I'm not asking you to become heroes and become jinn busters, okay? But what you can do is just recite Qur'an and see if there's a reaction. A person who's got a jinn in them will have a reaction. Sooner or later, they'll have a reaction. One good way of testing it out is behind their back, while the patient doesn't know that you're even reciting the Qur'an, to recite the Qur'an and see their reaction. Because if they know you're doing it, if they can see you, you don't know, sometimes they can fake it. Sometimes the psychological problems that are very close to what a jinn actually does do in a body. So don't think that every person who's reacting the same way has got a jinn problem. Sometimes it's a psychological problem, sometimes it's a mental problem. There are many different mental problems and mental health issues out there, and you don't know which one it might be, so a specialist in that field might be able to say. A good raqi, okay, a good jinn buster, or someone who's trying to take the jinn out and so on, a good one will tell you when they're not able to deal with it. That's a really good one. Those that take every single case on, I don't know how they do that, because you're going to come across cases that are going to be stronger than you. Another one is that these jinn busters or raqis, when they're trying to do it, they should not touch the body, especially of a female, when it's the male that's trying to take it out. What reason is there to touch a female's body? What reason is there? There's women who go out there, they're gullible, they allow these things to happen, and next minute you know, Doctor Who's there, I'm trying to solve about, something's gone wrong, something happens. You got to be careful with what you're doing, because you're allowing this person to do whatever they can to you, and you don't know, they could maybe hallucinate you when you weren't hallucinating. Now, one of the symptoms of people actually having something there, a presence, is that it will happen, it will flare up around the time of Maghrib. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ has told us that that's the time when the jinns are released. Maghrib time is the time when the jinns are released. So usually when there's a case of a jinn or sihr and so on, around Maghrib time it seems to flare a lot more. Okay? So you've got sort of these things. Then maybe perhaps they're seeing dark shadows or something that are moving around. And sometimes, others can catch on to these things. Sometimes there's even animals that will be quite agitated to be around that person because of the presence of these things. Sometimes that's a sign as well. When animals sort of get freaked out, or they start to behave very odd, domestic animals and so on around this person. These are just signs. Again, these are not something only an expert will be able to tell you if there is something there or not. Now, how do you get that out? How do you get this thing out? Well, the biggest thing is your own Quran recitation. And the thing I have to say to you, you've got to remain clean as well. So all men listening to this, when you go to the toilet, short call or long call, you sit down and you use the toilet. I hope that is clear to you. Because when we go to the masjids, and we're trying to use the masjid toilets even, sometimes we find it very filthy at Jummah time, because some Muslims come in the masjid, they just stand up and they use the toilet. And if you leave urine on your body or your clothes, you've just made it easier for the bad devils to get to you. Sisters, on the monthlies, once you finish your monthly, get rid of it, in the best possible way you can, making sure that you remain clean throughout. Because not being clean at that time of the month, and not being clean in the way you deal with this, that could leave you prone to this. Because what the devil's like is, they like to find dirt. Because when we go to the toilet, what we say? We say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal-khaba'ith. Oh Allah, I'm seeking your protection from the bad, filthy male devils and the bad, filthy female devils. That's khubuthi wal-khaba'ith. Because they have a nature of wanting to stay with filth. So if you've got filth with your body, that's an easy way for them to come and try and target you. Okay? The other thing is that, come on, your practice of Islam, your general practice of Islam should be there. And if you do recitation of the Quran every single day, you shouldn't have a problem. Even if a strong thing was to be done towards you, you shouldn't have a problem. Okay? Now, the thing is, we have got nothing to worry about. Because in most houses, these things don't happen. As I've said to you earlier, that some Asian houses, okay, anything goes wrong, someone's done something. Well, a lot of the cases, it doesn't have to be someone has done something. It could be simply because they've got other problems. When I get some of these things come along to me, just to find out what might be the case, I ask them simple questions. Questions to do with their lives. There's something called a midlife crisis, where 35-year-olds married for the last 10 years, they go through midlife crisis. If you're 30-something years old and you're having a bit of a turbulence in your marriage, then it's natural. Okay? Some of you are smiling, I just rescued your life. It's natural. Why? Because when you got married, you only had eyes for each other. It's just you and her. That's it. If you ever woke up in the morning, you only saw one other human being, and that was just her. That's it. Then pops out a baby. Now you got eyes on the baby, and you got eyes on her, and eyes on him. So basically, there's different people to see. But you're still in love, because it's just one little baby. Then two pop out. The second one pops out. When the second one pops out, then you're very, very busy. This one nappy, that one eating, that one this, that one bathing, that one whatever. You're basically half dead by the end of the night. Then three pop out. When three pop out, you're juggling. You don't know which one to look after. Okay, one pooing, one eating, one this, one sleeping, one crying, one this, one noses, you're not running, one that. Oh my God, what am I doing? Where's my husband? I don't even know. I'm trying to juggle with him as well. You know what I'm saying? And then what happens is, whether it's 3 children or whatever, you've been doing this for a few years, he's going to work, now he's going to do more work, and he's trying to pay the bills, and he's really busy, and she's busy as well. They're not seeing each other, they're not spending time with each other, they're not talking to each other, and so on, so much as they should do. They're not having the datings, and the outings, and the dinners, and whatever else they used to have early on, and going out, and then all of a sudden, it's like, you don't love me, do you? You don't love me, do you? It's a midlife crisis. When the kids grow up slightly, then you see that it goes out because you're so busy with the kids, you've got so much going on, you're not spending time with each other. And if there's at that time, if there's arguments happening, don't just rush to saying there's jinn, there's sihr, there's whatever. No. Look for other reasons. Look for genuine reasons why they might not have had something done to them. Okay. Another one I want to tell you about is this evil eye. Okay? The evil eye. Now, I know in English, evil eye has got the word evil in it. In Arabic, it's called al-ayn. It's called al-ayn, which is the eye. In Urdu, you say nazar. In Bengali, it's very similar. You say nozor. Right? So it's the same thing. Now, in those languages, you don't have the word evil inside it. In English, you have the word evil. And the reason why I'm pointing this out to you is because the evil eye does not have to be given as someone who's evil. There doesn't have to be any evil intention there. It could be given by your close one, someone that loves you, someone you're spending a lot of time with. It could be given to you by your parents. Parents can give you evil eye. Grandparents can give it. You can have it from spouses. It can happen. It can happen from friends, someone who's close to you, who never had any evil intention. It can happen. So what do you know, this whole evil eye thing, you got to understand that it can be someone close to them. So let me give you an example. My eldest son, about 10, 12 years ago, when he used to go to his grandparents' house, my son, alhamdulillah, never had a problem with his speech. But when he goes to his grandparents' house and he comes back, then all of a sudden he starts stuttering. His tongue gets stuck to his palate when he's speaking. Now, if I was one of those typical parents, I would have just, talked to the grandparents straight away and said, "That's it. My son's never going to come back to your house ever again. You evil people. What have you done to him?" And you ruin the entire relationship. They haven't intended anything back. They love him to bits. Then what happened? Well, sometimes when people are wowed by something and they don't say MashaAllah or they don't say Barakallahu Feek, then the person can be affected by evil eye. So what did I do? I recited straight away. Now this is something that I found from the ulama before me, the scholars before me, they tried and tested this out. You're not going to find this in a hadith. If you ask me for a hadith, I won't be able to present this to you. But there are sometimes some people, they try and find something in the Quran, they use it, an ayah or something, they use it, and they find that it has got some effect, okay? There are many ayahs like that. You can try and test in your daily life, and it might work for you, something might work for you, right? So they've tried this. And it's the last two verses of Surah Qalam, right? Surah number 68, last two verses. وَإِنْ يَكَادُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَيُزْلِقُونَكَ بِأَبْصَارِهِمْ لَمَّا سَمِعُوا الذِّكْرَ وَيَقُولُونَ إِنَّهُ لَمَجْنُونَ وَمَا هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. So I read that 41 times, the last two verses of Surah Qalam, 41 times, and then I blow on him, or blow on water and give it to him. Okay, alhamdulillah, his stuttering stops. Then he goes to the house again after a couple of weeks. Then he comes back again with the same stuttering. I read it back again, give it to him. Same thing happened, right? And alhamdulillah, now that he's grown up, alhamdulillah, now he doesn't have, when he got to a certain age, alhamdulillah, it never used to happen to him again. In my house, when I did my house up about 9 years ago, right? When you have brand new sort of floor put in there, wooden floor, you have tiles, you have just painted walls and things are looking sparkling. People come inside and they're like, wow, wow, wow. And they might not have any evil intention, some of them probably do. They're like, wow. Some of them are like that, you can feel it, that's something wrong inside them, right? They don't want to say it to you. But many of them don't have it. And what will happen then is something that after they leave, something happens to the house. Like, this thing's gone wrong, that thing's gone wrong, that breaks, that something is not working. And then straight away I read these verses, I blew in water and they sprinkled it all over my house, and alhamdulillah, it's fine. Then a few weeks later, another group of people, they come, and then the same thing happens again. And it happens until your house gets a little bit, like 2 years have gone by, it's not looking as brand new as when you did it up, and then it all stops. Until one day what happened is, a jar fell out of the cupboard. When somebody opened the cupboard, the jar fell out and it smashed onto a tile and it cracked the tile. And I thought, brilliant, that's really good. My wife said, are we going to change that tile? I said, no. She said, you're not going to change the tile? I said, no. I said, it looks good. So what do you mean it looks good? I said, it's good because people are going to walk in the house now, they're going to go, wow, ooh, see how they live, they can't even change the tile. It's good. Because the thing is, if they find a fault in it, they're not going to think that you're living so well. And you guys, I can't even understand you. There's people here, selfie. You can't even have a meal without sending the picture of the food and you to I don't know how many people. Why on earth would you want to do that? So you're sitting there trying to have your meal, you go kichi, right? And then you enhance it. Oh my God, enhance it with the color. Makes the food look better than what it actually looks. If you look at that, some of these Samsung phones, right? They make your face look better than what it actually looks. Seriously, I saw one person's photo and I looked at them and I thought, that's not you. What it does is it blends, all the little holes you got in your face. The Samsung camera, the latest Samsung phones, okay, they've got this feature in there. What they do is they take the skin color and they blend it and they make your skin look perfect. You know what I'm saying? that. Never ever accept a proposal for marriage through one of the Samsung phones. I mean, serious. You might look at it and say, you're not even related to that person I saw. So then they send these pictures. The pictures make the food look so nice, so yummy. They eat it right there. Then they got stomach ache. I'm thinking, no wonder. No wonder, evil eye. If anyone ever takes a picture of my food, I'm like, you better not send that till 48 hours later. I want to make sure that food has gone through my system and it's come back out to the other end. If they give any evil eye after that, it's going to the sewage system. It's not coming in my body because that thing's been flushed out of my house as well. So it's not even inside my house, right? Why do some people like babies, family photos all the time? You know, young children, take photo, put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook, let the world see how we're living. And you know, if you look at them as well, they're always smiling. And I'm thinking, hey, you guys are so sad, you never smile like that. Have you seen people's photos? They're online, everyone's perfect, everyone's like, I'm thinking, man, if you smile that many times, yeah, you probably have, you know, a lot of muscle spasms in your face because you don't smile that much. I know that. Nobody can smile that much, right? But then people look at that and they can give you the evil eye. They give you the evil eye to the children that you've got in your household. Why would you want to do that? Only share things with your close members of your family, close people that you've got. Don't share these things with the whole of the world. You're showing your house, you're showing your car, you're showing your, you know, your this, your that. People have weddings and they want to show to the whole of the world how you got married and this and that, blah, 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 blah. I'm thinking it's all fake. It's all fake. Because she's got a mask on her face anyway. It's a makeup, and makeup is a mask on her face. Let's be serious about it. Like, I've got nothing about you using makeup. That's your choice. If you want to use makeup, that's your choice. But let's just face it. Makeup is a mask on the face. You guys agree or disagree? The men are not even speaking. Look, you want to use makeup, that's up to you, right? But what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to wedding proposal, when it comes to, you know, these photos or whatever's shown, right? It's not the real thing that you're seeing, okay? And a lot of the evil eye goes because you've enhanced your image, you've made yourself look so nice with the suit you're wearing, with the color contour you've got, with the matching sort of colors that are blending in, with that Samsung phone that I just talked about, right? The imagery and so on, and you're looking perfect. You're looking perfect. We could just take you to Bollywood and sell you as a slave. You know, but that's besides that. But you don't actually look like that. And people are giving you nazar and they're giving you, you know, evil eye based on what you're really not, what you're not doing. So I want you two guys to do one thing, okay? You've got to say, Masha Allah. We're going to say? And everyone say, Masha Allah. The Quran has taught us, say, Masha Allah, or say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Masha Allah, sorry, Masha Allah, la quwwata illa billah. That's in Surah Kahf. Masha Allah, la quwwata illa billah. But a shortened version of that is Masha Allah. Or you say what's in the hadith, which is Barakallahu feek. Can you say that? Barakallahu feek, which means may Allah bless you with regards to it. And when you say that, Alhamdulillah, you know what you do is because you said may Allah bless it, then you don't get the evil eye. It's in a hadith. So when you go home, guys, today, I want you to look at your wives and say, MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. And your wife's going to say to you, what's wrong with you? You've never said that many MashaAllahs to me. I went to a talk today. Shaykh said I should look at you and say, MashaAllah, because you're so beautiful. So seriously, what was the title of the talk? The Devil Within. Anyway, so that's for you to sort out when you go home, yeah? But the thing is, with all of these cases that we've just spoken about, whether it is to do with the jinns, whether it's to do with the sihr, black magic, whether it's to do with the evil eye, all of that can be prevented through the Quran recitation, all of that with the du'as. The number one thing I told you to do is, you should not be scared of jinns, okay? Number two is, do your bismillahs. You know, so when you come in, do your Quran recitation, very big thing. The number three is the Quran recitation. Your own Quran recitation is the biggest thing that you can have in your life against all of these things, okay? And then after that, if you've got a problem, go to the doctors, go and check yourself out. And don't forget, it could be either of the side. Don't be a denier of these things. It could be a gym problem, it could be a psychological problem, it could be a mental health issue, it could be a physical, you know, physical thing of the body. You don't know. So you want to go, especially first go to the doctors. First go and get things checked out. Because a lot of the problems I'm telling you about, 2/3 of the cases can be sorted out if they went to someone to check themselves out. And one other thing I want to add to this, okay? I did say to you go to the doctors, but I do want to add this on, okay? The doctors in this side of the world, they are crippled and they're enslaved. I'm going to use that word, enslaved by the pharmaceutical companies, okay? So they're not allowed to give advice except what's been told to them. And the pharmaceutical companies tell these GPs exactly what drugs and what tablets and what medication to sell. So sometimes what happens, and I really need to mention this, very important. A lot of the depression cases, a lot of the cases of stress and depression, the situation gets 10 times worse when they take the medication. And I'm going to mention that. And they can call me out on this and mention this. Why? Because the side effects. And the side effects are written there, they're clear. But look, I do understand some cases they're going to have to take these medications. I'm not telling you not to take the medication. All I'm saying is get a second opinion. So I'm not discouraging you from the doctors. I'm not doing that. I'm asking you, do go to the doctors, but get your own second opinion. Maybe from other doctors. Go and get a private. You know, one thing, I'll tell you a big difference here. You can go to a private doctor in this country, pay a little bit of money. It might cost you £300 to £400, but you might get a second opinion on what they've said about you, and that could really make a massive difference. Okay? You could even go, and I kid you not, you could go to India and probably get better treatment than these countries over here, with doctors over there, genuine doctors. You could do that. There are people flying out. I met a relative just the other day. She had a quote for her teeth to be straightened, £2,000 in this country. She went to Bangladesh in Sylhet. Oh yes, Bangladesh is moving up. Yeah, oh yes, right? Bangladesh in Sylhet, she got the job done for 200 quid. It's a genuine job. £200, she got it done. The people on these other countries, they've stepped up, they've got the same equipment and so on. Sometimes they've got better equipment. I mean, this country, for God's sake, after Brexit, we don't know what's it going to be. It's true, isn't it? You're not saying anything because you guys voted for it. It's true. You guys voted for it anyway. So the NHS has been rinsed, from what the money is supposed to have. But look, I'm not discouraging you to go to the doctor, but I'm saying depression cases, please get second opinions, please look into it, please look at what else you can do. Sometimes there's herbs, sometimes you can turn to, old, maybe thousands of years of, medication that's been out there in the Chinese herbal system. You can find other medications. You don't have to just go to these doctors. You can find hakims in India, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, those people who work with natural herbs and natural, things from the ground, and they can give cures. I'm not saying they're the best, but they might be good for you if you go for a second opinion. Reciting salawat on the Prophet ﷺ continuously is one of the best things you can have for depression. Anyone who's stressed out, anyone who's got depression, right, give them salawat, but try and catch it early. I tell you one reason why a lot of people are getting depressed on this side of the earth. Because you're in your house, in a small house all day, you're not going out much, maybe you've had an incident outside, you lock yourself up, or you stay home a lot, you see the same four walls, you feel like, especially people who are getting to the 40s and sort of 50s, they kind of feel that they've got no way out. They start to think a lot about the problems that's happened with their children, maybe some marriage has gone wrong, something else, and they think they're all alone, there's no extended family there, there's no outdoor going, there's no sort of visiting a lot of people, there's no laughing in their life, there's no sort of, enjoyment and so on, and they sit there, they think, overthink their problem, and then they're depressed. If you've got any family members like that, catch it on early, get them out. This is what you do, right? Laugh with them, sit with them, talk to them, okay? Get them out of the house, get them to visit people, get them to visit family members, take them to places, drop them off there on purpose, right? Tell them to stay there. Get your aunties, others, uncles, whoever it is, to talk to them, get them in a social life, get them to move out, exercise, fresh air, walk around, meet people, greet people, talk, right? Get it out of the system. Laughter is a big cure for people who are depressed. Laughter is a very big cure. The longer you leave them like that, in that state where they're not laughing, not socializing, they've got a huge problem. And then the problems they've got, it might be son's marriage gone wrong, daughter's this gone wrong. You basically need to talk to them, tell them it's okay, give them hope, lift their spirits up. All these things will help people who are about to get depressed to get out of the depression. So this is just very slight, I do understand severe cases, they might have to take these medications and so on, but be careful, do read the side effects and then take your choice when you want to take those sort of pills and tablets. But the doctors in general, sometimes they won't prescribe you or tell you there's an alternative cure somewhere because they're bound by the pharmaceutical companies. So I'm asking you please to do your own research and to find out what's best for you, what alternative thing that you can get. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up for Q&A. Okay, we're going to open up for Q&A. I'm going to have it straight from the floor. I have the right to say that I'm not going to take someone's question because it might be something that I don't want to answer for whatever reason it is. We've got 22 minutes exactly, so I'm going to start with the brothers first. Hand up, you ask me the question straight away. It's got to be related to the subject that we've done, things that I've said, and then I'll take sister, then a brother, and sister like that. So first, any brothers, put your hand up and take the question. They're all scared, man. Okay, go on. Yep.
Do you ever get to a situation where you physically hear about physical assault on people in
So the patient is causing physical assault, or?
No, the person's dealing with a problem.
The jinn buster, the raqi.
So they physically assaulting the person.
Okay, so thank you. That's a good question. Should the raqi or the jinn buster physically ever assault the patient to get the jinn out? The answer is no. In fact, a very experienced jinn buster will not even touch the patient. Okay? And they can extract the jinn. They don't even need to touch the person. Sister, please. Any sister, hand up. Yes. Yes, sir.
You spoke about Seher, black magic, and a lot of the times it's done to Tawheez. What is the correct way if you find something to dispose of it?
Tawheez, you're asking about. Okay, so this question comes up a lot. Okay, so the first and foremost thing you got to understand is that the ulama have actually discussed this, about this amulet and so on. So you're going to find certain ahadith where the Prophet ﷺ has said amulets are shirk and so on. Okay, so why has the Prophet ﷺ said this? Is because the amulets that were in his time, they were actually shirk. Those shirk words written in there. And these were written in the name of the gods that they had in Makkah Mukarramah, and they used to give these amulets out. Okay, so those ahadith are to do with that. Now the next thing is, should we ever have amulets? Should anyone ever carry an amulet? Is it halal for you to have an amulet? Now here's where the scholars are divided. So what they've said is, like for example, the great commentator on Bukhari, Imam Ibn Hajar Asqalani, has written this, that for an amulet to be something which will be allowed, he gave a few conditions. And the reason why he gave conditions is because there are certain ahadith, not from the Prophet ﷺ, but these are from his students, the Sahaba. So there are ahadith in Ahmad ibn Hanbal, in the Musnad of Ahmad, where Sahaba radiallahu anhu ajma'in, they wrote something and they gave it to someone to put it onto their arm or put it onto their body. This is something that is with a good chain. It's not da'if, it's not weak. It's been reported in several sort of cases. So again, the question is, should you or should you not? So Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahimahullah, he writes, he says that first is, whatever has been written on here has to be something which is from the Qur'anic verses, or something which we can clearly see that it's to do with like something ahadith and so on and so forth. Okay. Second thing is that he said it has to be something which cannot be shirk, cannot be something against Islam. The other thing is that he said is that it has to be clearly understood by anyone who's going to read it. Okay. Then he said the most important one, which I think most people fail when they use these amulets. He said that the person wearing that, if you ever wish to wear that, your belief has to be 100% in Allah, that only Allah cures you, and the amulet or the piece of paper or something cannot cure you. It can't do anything for you. Right? Just like when you take medication, only Allah cures. The medication can't cure me. It's Allah that cures me. Okay? So a lot of people, what happens is when you give them these amulets, their belief starts to go into the amulet that if I don't wear this amulet, oh my God, this is going to happen to me, that is going to happen to me. Okay? So they start to wear these things. My advice is you don't need them. You don't need, I'm telling you, you don't need that. It's up to you whether you want to follow the other opinion that allows it with all these conditions met. That's up to you. But I will tell you the strongest thing that you can use is your own Quran recitation. The more you recite of the Quran, the more you will find a relief. Sometimes when you start reciting the Quran, it gets worse. Don't be discouraged. The reason why it's getting worse is because that jinn is being affected and he's going to try and hurt you or cause pain in you to try and make you stop reciting. That's the whole point of the jinn. But when you carry on reciting, you will find that it gets better and better as time goes along. Right? But you just need to increase your own recitation of the Quran and surround yourself with good things. Like I said to you, you should remain clean. If you can't recite yourself, put something else on there. That's reciting with a low volume in the room where you feel the panic attacks or whatever it might be, and you'll see over time you'll be fine. The best thing is your own Quran recitation. I cannot express this anymore. A lot of people, they don't practice Islam, they're not clean, they don't read the Salah, they've got no Quran in their life, and they've been affected by one of these things. It's like that patient who's gone out there with a t-shirt, he's caught pneumonia or something, and now he refuses to look after his body. If you refuse to look after your body, your physical body, you're going to get ill. If you refuse to look after your spiritual body, you could catch something and you could remain ill unless you cure your spiritual body. So another brother, please, with a question. And then quite okay, one back there. Okay, a very good question. This gets asked quite a lot. So this thing about can you actually use another jinn to take a jinn out? Now, the first and foremost thing is that you got the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he caught a jinn once and he tied it to one of the pillars of the masjid, inside Masjid Nabawi, and he actually tied it before Fajr. He caught it in the night sometime. He tied it, and his idea was that he wanted his Sahaba to see how a jinn looks. Before Fajr, he released it. Why? Because he said that he remembered his brother Sulaiman alayhi salam, brother in prophethood. He remembered his brother Sulaiman alayhi salam, who had made a dua, Rabbi habli mulkan la yanbaghi li ahadin min ba'di. My Lord, give me a kingdom and a possession that nobody else will have after me. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam realized that Sulaiman alayhi salam had possession of jinns, he released this jinn out of mercy, and it's a very good thing he did that, because otherwise all of us would be busy catching jinns all day. Like some people are like, I want to catch a jinn, I want to catch a jinn. So I want to tell you that it is something which is there as a hadith, and he said to Sahaba, had it not been for my thought, I would have kept it there and you would have seen how a jinn looks. Now, does that hadith make it incorrect or haram for anyone to get a jinn? Well, normally, look, I've told you this. Jinns should not come into our zone. There's a barrier there. We should not go into their zone. There's a barrier there. Like normally, you should not go into their zone. And there's no one that should go into their zone to try and capture a jinn to enslave it. There are people, there are methods out there that you can do it, and there are people looking for these methods. And I'm telling you right now, I'm warning you, it's very dangerous. Either it's going to leave you paralyzed, it's going to leave you mental, or it's going to leave you dead. Right? It can be very dangerous to catch a jinn. But those people who then catch a jinn and want to use the jinn, enslave it, and then tell it to do this, do that, that's wrong. Because you've enslaved something that's free. Now the brother's question about can some of them use jinns to extract jinns, what happens in those cases is, some of these raqis, some of these exorcists and so on, they took out a jinn at one point. That jinn, then by coming out, somehow was guided, either guided to Islam or guided to being a practicing jinn. Then that jinn voluntarily comes up to the raqi and says, I want to help you extract other jinns. It's just like if I went to one of these places in Manchester where you've got thugs on the streets, and I go out there and I genuinely rescue someone from the streets and say, look guy, stop doing what you're doing, just be a good man, come to the masjid, whatever. Imagine somebody on the streets like a druggie, whatever, comes, but he's a really good, strong individual, comes and finds Islam. Then he offers voluntarily to me and says, look, I want to help you, go and do go and sort the problems out on the streets because now I'm a good person. I want to actually, any bad case you've got of people bullying, hitting, whatever, I want to go out there and I want to sort them out. So that's his voluntary thing. If he wants to do that, alhamdulillah, I can use him as a friend to sort out the streets of Manchester. The same way, some of these jinn extractors, they have jinns voluntarily coming to them and willingly offering their services to them. And if that's the case, that's fine, if they do that. And what they normally do is that they'll have these are all good jinns with them. They'll say, they can have communication with these jinns and say, okay, you go and sort this problem out, and sometimes they can do that. So there are cases like that, but not everyone will have that kind of power to do that out there. Okay? So let's have a sister, please. Yes? Okay, very good question. Thank you very much, sister. How do you perform ruqyah on yourself? Ruqyah on yourself is performed. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam obviously used to do ruqyah on himself in the sense that he used to recite these, the Qul a'udhu bil falaq, Qul a'udhu bin nas, and so on, blow in his hands, pass over his body. It became a regular thing he used to do. In fact, when it came to the end of his life, Aisha radiallahu anha, she did it for him. And when he couldn't move his body, he was right at the end of his life, and she actually blew in his hands and passed his own hands over his own body. Okay? So, doing ruqyah in itself, one is, I've told you, I'm going to give you a few things that if you want to read, okay? So, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِالْفَلَقِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِالنَّاسِ 3 times each, after Fajr, after Maghrib, okay? And then you've got Ayatul Kursi. Right? And what you do is, you can just read it, that's fine, or you may want to blow into your hands, like this, okay? And then pass it over your body. All the way to the extent of your body, wherever your hands can reach, you pass it over, okay? You can add other things found in the ahadith. So look in the Quran, ahadith, and find certain things. One thing I do want to mention is that some ulama have gathered 33 common verses used to ward yourself of jinns or protect yourself from jinns and sihr. It's called the manzil. Okay, go to the internet, type in manzil, manzil PDF. Okay, 33 verses from the Quran. They'll come up in Arabic, recite them, the English transliteration will be there as well. You recite those verses after Fajr, recite them after Maghrib, blow in your hands and pass your hands over your body. It's a very good protection from sihr and jinns and so on. Or you can refer to some of the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he's given us certain things to read for general sort of protection. You can find these du'as, for example, in Hisnul Muslim. It's a very common book. You can find, very small book. You can find it, even find a PDF online. Just put Hisnul Muslim or the Fortress of a Muslim. But again, Fortress of a Muslim, put PDF, it'll come up, those du'as will be there. There are certain du'as to be read in the morning, certain du'as to be read in the evening, just read them. The next thing you do is that just have, like if you want to do ruqyah on yourself, then start to choose certain surahs of the Quran to do ruqyah. Like they use normally Surah Yasin. Surah Yasin, if you recite that, and again, you can just recite it or just blow in your hands, like I said at the end, and pass it over everybody. That's up to you. If you don't want to blow in your hands and pass it over, that's fine. But reading that is a form of protection. There are a number of other places in the Quran that you might want to read, like for example, Surah Isra. Surah Isra or Surah Banu Israel, the 23rd Surah of the Quran, that's also used, especially the last part of it is used to do ruqyah. You've got Surah Hashr, some use Surah Hashr, right? It's 59 Surah, they use that. There are a number of different parts of the Quran that people might use. Some use Surah Jinn, which is Surah number 72. Again, reciting that, it's not a very long Surah, using that and then pass it over your body. Again, some use Surah Kafirun, Surah Ikhlas, Surah Falaq, Surah Nas. And just recite these, and sometimes you might want to do multiple recitation of them. Ayatul Kursi is a very big one. Okay, Ayatul Kursi is a very big one that you might want to read and keep reading for your general protection. But in the ahadith you'll find things like Bismillah alladhi la yadurru ma'asmihi shay'un fil ardi wa la fis sama'i wa huwa as-sami'ul alim. It's a dua. You say that 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the evening, and that's like a general protection that you get. Okay, there are many things like that in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He's told us that you read these things, like Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illahu alayhi tawakkaltu wa huwa rabbul arshil azim. Again, found in the Sunnah, you read it 7 times in the morning, after Fajr 7 times in the evening, and it gives you protection from a lot of things. Okay, so these things are there. If you want to use them, then please search for them. I've given you the references where to look on the internet to find this, and you do Ruqyah on yourself for that. We've got 8 minutes left. Hey brother, please, yes, just here. Yes, sir. Yeah, just give me one question.
Okay, so the question is, the verses are referring to the creation of man, and although in some verses, one verse he calls him by spirit, another verse says that I breathed into him of my spirit, and there's an opinion that jinn possession doesn't exist because of this knowledge that Allah has given to man. So what?
Okay, look, there are certain ulama who don't believe in jinn possession. That's their, and they have the right to believe that. That's their belief. Okay, the whole thing jinn possession. But there are ulama who've said that, and they've quoted the Quran. For example, Surah Baqarah, يَتَخَبَّطُهُ الشَّيْطَانُ مِنَ الْمَسِّ. That's there clear in the Quran, where the devil will touch them and will make them, have some kind of something to do with their head that might not be working right because of just touching them. Okay, that's in the Quran. There are ahadith or athar, definitely from the Sahaba to make it quite clear that jinn possession can happen. Now again, the other opinion is that it doesn't happen. So if people want to believe that, that's fine. Just believe that. Again, like I said to you, there's nothing for you to be worried about. If you're leading a life and none of this has ever affected you, and you're just having a normal life, you're not scared of anything, and your normal life, then just enjoy life, man. Be happy, man. No one's telling you to get on this side. But if you've got some problems like that, then everything I've said is something that might be very useful for you one day. Okay, so sister, please. Yes, over there. Okay, thank you. So everything I've said in this one about, she's talking about sleep paralysis, and someone's reading Quran and they've still got it. So everything I've said, do that. What I said earlier on, I've talked about, if you were here for the first session, and this recording is going to come out, I talked about beginning of Baqarah, Ayatul Kursi, end of Baqarah, 2 verses, Qul A'udhu bi Falaq, Qul A'udhu bi Nas 3 times each. Okay, whatever I said at that time, just tend to read that, sleep with wudu, and they should be fine. Tend to blow on them, on their hands and pass it over the body, and they should be fine. So another brother, please. Yes.
Even though we know that there's a good and bad jinn, do you know anything else
about the appearance of jinns? Jinns have got an appearance. They've got many different appearances. I actually saw a jinn once. So I used to, the masjid that I used to do imamat in, I used to actually walk in the dark at night time. I used to go all alone in the masjid. I used to walk in the dark because I wanted to see a jinn. I was like, yes, I want to see a jinn one day. So one night I did see one because I used to hear them in the masjid. They used to play, they used to walk sometimes in the corridor. I could clearly hear the footsteps. They used to open doors, close doors in that masjid where I used to sleep. So one day I came out of my room and I looked into the hallway where the main Jama'ah prayer hall is, and in the prayer hall, and I saw a jinn reading Salah. The jinn was about that high from the ground, his feet were that high from the ground. And the scene was a bit lower than this one, but his head was quite high, very tall, looked like light greenish, could see right through it, but he was clearly standing there reading Salah in midair. Right? And when I looked again, he just disappeared because he didn't want me to sort of see it. But there are jinns out there. I mean, a lot of them, when they can take a human form, they can do that, but whenever they take a human form, they won't be able to fully act. They won't be able to fully act the way that person is. That's the moment you find out that, if they've actually taken a human sort of form. I remember one case where we had in Dewsbury, we were in the madrasa. Okay, I was studying there, and one of my colleagues, some of you might know him, Shaykh Shamsuddin, is a sheikh now in London from the Ibrahim College. He graduated from his hifz. He went home from the madrasa. He went home. Okay, so he's come from Dewsbury, which is near Leeds. He's gone all the way down to London. And then there was another student who, it was Saturday night, a student from Canada, his name was Peshiman. He came out, he tried to go down the stairs and he sees Shamsuddin there with his hands and arms all out, okay, legs all the way, like a cross, okay, and is preventing anyone from going downstairs using those staircases. And Peshimam said, what's wrong with you? He said, move, and Shamsul was just looking like this. And then Peshimam just used another staircase to go downstairs. And then when he went downstairs, he said, what's wrong with Shamsul Daha? Like looking at me like that, stopping me. They said, Shamsul Daha, he's gone home. What do you mean he's gone home? Yeah, he went home on Friday. What? He's home? What do you mean he's home? Yes, and he was actually home. He was actually home. So sometimes what can happen is that they can take a form of a human, but they can't fully act the person when they do that. And the real face, they say is not as beautiful as human beings. Let's just say that. They have, in their world it's all fine, but they don't have, the real face is not. That's why sometimes some jinns, can fall in love with a human being. I mean, serious, it can happen. It can happen. Some of you might be thinking, man, I never made it to have a human wife. Now I've got a chance. It'll be good. It'll be good. You could even get married after that to the human as well. So you have two wives, one jinn, one human. The human will never know the jinn is there. You know what I'm saying? Might be the case. But I'm just saying that now. It can happen that they can, but anyone who's intending any of that to go down that pathway, it can be very dangerous as well. Because they say that the level of passion and lust a jinn has is 10 times more than what the human has. So you're going to be sweating and probably half dead by the end of the night. Okay, so I'll just leave it at that. Last question, please, from a sister. Any sister, last question. I can't see any hands. Right at the back, you're going to have to really talk really loudly. Go on. Okay, so if a child, the question is if a child says that they're seeing things in the house and so on, when a child says it, the child, first thing to see that have they been seeing horror films, have they been scared by anyone? Yeah, these are things to look at, okay? Because sometimes when a child has seen horror films, they might have, they might see things, or they've been scared by stories, they might see things. But in the case where the child hasn't had any of that, and they say they see things, it could be for two reasons, okay? One is that there is a bad presence there in the house, and one is there's a good presence there in the house. The bad presence is when the jinn is trying to harm them or whatever, and again, you're going to need to get a Ruqyah or someone to sort that out. The good presence is sometimes jinns reveal themselves to young children. And the children kind of see that they're not harming them, they're just friendly people, other people in the house, okay, or other person in the house. They just see them as another figure in the house. As long as the jinn is not harming them in any way, there's nothing to worry about. Okay? If they're scaring them, then you do need to go and get some Ruqyah done. Or at least tell the parents to read the Ayatul Kursi. All the things I've said, to read that and blow on the child, inshallah. Okay? It's exactly 5 o'clock now. Jazakumullah khair. Stay exactly where you are. Any final announcements Brother Zayd's going to make. And thank you very much for being a wonderful crowd here in Manchester.